Well, this is Python programming. My name is David Hayes. I have my video shut off because I can't record with Snagit and run my video at the same time. Okay, so in Blackboard here, here's the syllabus. And I'm not going to go through all this. Here's my phone number. Here's my email address. The book is a free one. So the link is out here. Also, I'll show you where the link is on Blackboard. Main idea of this course is to teach you Python programming. And I'm not going to sit here and read all this to you. You can obviously read. Okay, great. Projects tests are 80% of your grade. The final project is 20% of your grade. Now, that should really say test. I always just give one test. Part of our accreditation is that we assess program learning outcomes. And the test I give you has 3 questions on it. It's a programming test. Has an if else, has a while, and a for loop that you have to program and give the answer. So it's not really a horrible test. It's just trying to see if you learn some of the basics coming out of the course. Other than that, everything's based on projects and for the course. For the most part, I do teach a couple of classes where I have an exception to this, but for the most part, everything's project based. You can't learn programming by memorizing definitions. There was one individual at a place where I worked. It's Koch Industries, Koch, and they were a 4.0 student, top of the line student. Didn't take many programming classes. Took a lot of definition classes, and she was very good in academics. She wouldn't use words like very good. She excelled in academics, and went to work for Koch. She did not know how to program. They got rid of her after a couple of months because they didn't care that people had all these definitions memorized. They were wanting somebody that could program. So that's what I focus on in my programming classes. Okay. Like I say, you can read all that. Here's the schedule. Chapter 1 is a pretty light chapter, so I'll introduce some other items today that is not in Chapter 1, but you read Chapter 1, and there's some projects associated with that. Okay. Course content. Here's the link for the Zoom session. We meet every Thursday from 8 to 9 a.m. If you can sign on, fantastic. But if you can't, I record all this in YouTube video format, so that I'll upload that, and I'll show you where here in a minute. After the class meets. It does take a little while for it to process up on YouTube, so sometimes it's a little later in the day. Here is the free ebook, Think Python ebook. If I click that, that'll open this up, and this is Python 2nd edition, which uses Python 3, which we'll talk here about in a minute. And if you want a paper copy, you can do that, but you can also download it in PDF form or read it in HTML. This Green Tea Press has quite a few free books, actually. If I click here, these are all the ones they have available. They're published under a Creative Commons attribution. There's a big movement to provide free resources. People shouldn't have to pay this huge amount for textbooks, for software, and so forth. And the computer world's pretty big about that. There is a website, and I'm going to Google it so I don't go someplace inappropriate. Yep, that's one. If I come here, this is open source. Open source means this is software that you can install and use and not have to pay. Here's the commercial ones associated with it. And you can type in something like it says AutoCAD. If I type in AutoCAD, of course, it comes up with that. And then it comes up in green down here with ones that are CAD solutions that are free to use. The ones that are out here are pretty good programs. Games. They'll have links for the websites and so forth you can go to and look at. Graphic applications. Again, the green is the free ones. I've used Dia before. It's a free version of the Visio. So, anyway, there's a link for the book. In addition to that, I'll be referring to this quite a bit, w3schools.com. If I click that, this is a fantastic site. Doesn't go into real heavy detail, but gives you enough to be quite meaningful. And if I come down here and learn Python, then if you're trying to very quickly refresh your memory on how to do something, what the command is, here's where you can go to do it. This morning, I wanted to refresh my memory because the programming languages start running together for me. So I came here, I looked up user input and said, oh yeah, okay, that's the input method. They even give you examples so you can see that. Anyway, we'll be referring to that. There's also a tutorials point. I probably should have put that link out there. I like this site pretty well too. They got a sandbox up here somewhere. I got this a little bit zoomed in, so let me make it. There it is. Coding ground. And these provide little sandboxes where you can test your code. So if I come down here, here's Python 3. That's version 3, in case you're wondering. Let's see, I got hello world. I click execute here. And that brings that up. Now I'm going to leave this up and running because if you're on a Chromebook, you're not going to be able to install the software I'm going to show you. But you should be able to come out here and do all of your coding in this coding ground, this sandbox. Sandbox is like a safe space where you're not going to, no matter what you do here, you're not going to mess up your own computer. You won't mess their computer up. They got this sandbox you can play in here. Okay, I'll leave that up and running. And there's also information on Python this page too. I'm getting more students that are using Chromebooks, and so I have to come up with alternatives like this tutorials point. Okay, and then Python documentation, probably not as useful, but if I click there, it takes me to python.org, and here's documentation. You'll find lots out here. Unfortunately, there's so much that you can kind of get lost trying to sift through it. If you're trying to find something, probably W3 Schools is your best source besides the textbook I've chose. My wife went into nursing, and the professors didn't tell her to do this, but she was buying all these extra study resources. because she was struggling and she thought having those extra resources would be handy. Sometimes you can have too much information, and so it's better not to have that, but it is out there if you want. This is also we can download like a Windows version of Python. Um, this is the editor here is very basic. I don't like it. Um, but if you don't want to use Tutorials Point and the software I'm going to show you here shortly um, does not install on your computer, then it's an option. Okay, and then a folder down here, software to install. Well, this takes you to the python.org site that we just looked at. And of course, this is a Windows version. If you just go to python.org, you can go to the downloads and choose Mac or Linux or whatever. I'm specifically going to be using Anaconda. Even more than that, I'm going to be using the Spider component of it. There's a notebook version that you can use to develop your Python, and some people like that. But I started using Spider, and that's one I like. Now let me click this. Takes you over here. This is a free version, so you don't have to pay for it. Don't go to some of these other ones, the pricing, and don't use like the Enterprise Edition. Costs you quite a bit, starting at 10,000. Even a commercial edition here is $15 a month. You don't need that. Anaconda is free. Okay, so when you click the download on this, it takes you down here. Here's your different installers. You see there is no Chromebook because you can't install it on Chromebook. And then you click whichever one. And at that point, when I installed it, at some point it'll ask you for the folder to install it in, and where it defaults at is kind of a challenge. What I did, I created a new folder called Anaconda 3. It defaults to wanting to put it in some folder, I don't remember what it was now, that has a space in it. And then it warns you. It says, hey, this may not work right since you have a space in your folder name. So I think it's program files. Yeah, program space files, or maybe it's this one. I don't remember which one. So then I created a new folder, Anaconda 3, and that's where I stored it at. Besides that, I just took everything as default. So nothing special I did on the install. Okay, so let me run Spider now. Let me see what it looks like actually. Where is it? I never accessed it this way. Maybe I can tell by this. Oh, there's Anaconda. Under the A's. Who would have guessed? You see there's Anaconda Navigator. This brings up links to all the different ones. And prompt, or PowerShell prompt, Jupyter Notebook, because that's one I was talking about some people like. Okay, so here's Spider. I never look it up that way. I just come down here in the search and I start typing Spider. And then I'll click that. While that's coming up, I'll click course content. And it runs fairly fast when it's up, but it takes a little bit for it to come up. Now here's the, go ahead and talk about these projects. Hello World, which we're going to look at here shortly. Hello World, some people who are already programming find it horrible that you start with this. It's just like, why do we have to do the hello world? It's so basic, it's so simple. Well, the idea behind that is that it's meant not to teach you programming. It's meant to make sure that your software is installed. You know how to use the basic editor at least, and you know how to run it. So, which are important pieces. This first week is kind of a challenge in a lot of cases because I'm sitting there working with students trying to figure out how to install various software on their machines. Okay, it's up now. There's also Project 1-02, Chapter 1 exercises. These are from the book, and we'll talk more about that. And then here's math operations. I added this morning because I thought I need one more. We're going to expand on project done during class by adding in difference, product, and quotient. Okay, so that's now up. And you see there's a new version of Spider. I didn't install it. If you've never programmed before, get rid of that. There we go. Let's play with this temp. If you've never programmed before, then this is referred to as an IDE, Interactive Development Environment. It's got a lot of functionality to it. We'll be covering some of these. Some of these I've never touched, never will do anything with. Thing about programming is learn just what you need to do the current job. Don't try to learn everything under the sun to begin with. There is so much in some of these packages and languages that if you said, "Well, I'm gonna become a genius at Python," yeah, you could get there. You know, you could probably spend a couple years in depth studying, learning every command, every variation of it. Another couple years learning all the different popular libraries that are available, and so maybe at the end of the 4 years you would have that say, okay, I'm truly an expert now. Then you go to get a job and they hire you to program in Java. So wasted 4 years. Not wasted, but people tend to try to think they got to know everything, and that's not the case. And so I'm just going to introduce you to pieces. You may say, well, what's this one do? What's this one do? What's this one do? What's this one do? No, don't do that. My wife would be that way. Whenever I work with her on computers, she'll say, well, you're not covering this, you're not covering that. Now, the idea is to keep people focused. Don't need to learn the entire thing. I worked at Koch Industries, a KOCH, and I was considered a pretty good employee. I'm not sure if good programmer is an appropriate thing to say, but they'd give me a programming task to do, and this would be back in the dark ages, COBOL programming. And I'd go take the programming request, I'd go work on it, and I'd bring it back to them oftentimes the same day. They were astounded that I could do this work so fast. Well, the difference is they would give it to me, and it would be maybe to change one aspect of the program. So I did not try to learn the entire computer program. I didn't read it all through and see what all it was doing. I just went to part of the code that needed to be changed, and I made the change, compiled it, and put it back into place. Other programmers, they did not feel comfortable doing that. And for the most part, it worked fine for me. There was a couple of times when it kind of bit me. But they didn't. They would try to learn what the entire program was doing because they didn't feel comfortable making any change unless they actually knew what the program was doing. It's kind of like you're wanting to change the batteries in your remote on your TV. You could pull out the instruction manual and study everything about your remote. You could look at the schematics, the layout of the circuits, and so forth. That way you'd understand everything about the remote. But who cares? Just change batteries. That's the way it is with programming. Is try to stay focused on just what you need to know at that time. Okay. Not trying to discourage you from learning extra, but get the basics down first. Okay, so here's a temp.py that opens up, and let me close that. And you see you can close this untitled 0, untitled 1. So there's always something there. You can also do a file, new file, and it'll open up and see how there's tabs across the top here. And make that a little bigger. To save it, you can do a file, save as. If you just do a file save, it'll probably save it under users, David Hayes, untitled, which might be fine. You just need to make a folder somewhere where you can store your data. Now in Windows, how you create a folder is with this Manila folder down here. You can click that. It'll bring up your folders. And you go to Windows here, and I'll save it under temp since I don't really want to keep these. You come over here, you right click and choose new. Where's it at? New folder. And Python programs. Okay, so now I can do a file, save as. And go to my C drive. Temp. Python programs. And then give it some kind of meaningful name. Hello world. Now, the .py is for Python. So don't try to say with a .doc or something like that. Say with the py. Click save. Now this comes up as default, and you see how we got 3 double quotes here and then 3 double quotes down here. This is not actually going to be run by your computer program. This is documentation. This is my hello world program. I used to, when I started programming way back when, I would put program name hello world.py, programmer David Hayes, purpose. So I put a lot of effort into this. Not that I can spell. Like that. First, especially when I created a brand new program, I did that. Well, the first brand new program I wrote, I did this. I was so proud. I wrote the entire program from scratch. They were using it in production and so forth. Using it for a purpose. And this was a Coke. And I think it was a year, 2 years after I wrote it. It was a process I ran in the middle of the night. They called me because it broke. And so the program that came in to figure out what was wrong with it, they brought up the program. They immediately saw this right here. It's like, okay, I'm going to call this person. So they called me. No longer did I put my name in my computer programs anymore. I didn't like to be called at 2 a.m. Asking what this program did I wrote a year or two ago. But anyway, documentation. This doesn't actually get run, but you can put whatever in there. Now I got this code here, though the hello world is pretty basic. Hello world, this is how you print something to the screen. Print, then beginning parentheses, and then within inside double quotes, hello world, and closing parentheses. So print. Now you notice it pops up with different items here, like that right there. Don't worry about what this means. It's meant to help you figure out how to write the code. Um, Sometimes it's meaningful, sometimes it's not. Put double quotes on this, like that. Excuse me. The double quotes around that indicates it's a string. A string is any character, any alpha character, a numeric character, exclamations, any kind of weird character you want. It's called a data type, which we'll talk a lot more about as the semester goes on. Now, to save it, you can again come up here. Instead of doing a save as, you can do a save. To run it, come up here, you do run, and you choose run over here. You see there's also an F5 there, or it's real small on here because I got these 4K. I'm not very impressed with them. Good quality, fantastic technology and so forth, but not all programs are written for 4K yet, so it makes some things so small you can't hardly see it. But there's also a button here to run it. Okay, run. Over here on the bottom right, you see where it says IPython console and says hello world. That's your first project. Recreating this and just demonstrating you're ready to start programming because you've installed everything. Now if I click here and do a backspace and like this, and I'll go ahead and run it. Gives me some kind of bizarre message over here. File, or I guess even going up. What in the world does this mean? I have no clue what it means. I never really read those. What I look for is oftentimes they'll tell you where the problem is. It says line 8. And you may say, well, wait a minute, there is nothing on line 8. Then you look at the line before, line 7. Oh, that's right, I didn't put the closing parentheses. Programming. If you have a beginning parentheses, you have to have a closing parentheses. You have beginning double quote, you have to have a closing double quote. Now this bothers me a little bit. This isn't necessarily symmetric. 3 and 3, but I mean it does have a beginning 3 and does have a closing 3. So I guess that kind of self-follows some kind of convention. Now if I come here, press enter, and run it. Works. So you can have extra lines in there. If I space it over like this, and then run it. Other languages would not would allow you to do this. See how this gives us an unexpected indent. So you can't put extra spaces like that. Let me put a capital P here and run it. File, run. It's case sensitive. See how it gives us an error? It even puts a little yellow squiggly under there saying, hey, there's something wrong there. And what's analysis say? How do I get that? Well, I don't know how to get that. Oh well, but it tells you there's something wrong there. Okay, and then I'm back to running. Now this over here is your console where you can just type in your lines of code directly. So I could come over here and type print What in the world is Python? And I'll print it. Let me see if I can make that bigger. Can't make that bigger, unfortunately. The first chapters in the book will talk about a console, and that's what they're talking about here. This little calculator you can do. 3 plus 3 is 6. 5 divided by 2, 2.5. 7 minus 2 plus 5, 10. So you can put whatever kind of calculations you want there. They want you to realize that's there available for you. Okay, print line 2. I'm just putting some kind of text there. Print line 3. And print line 4. And print 5. Okay, so let's run this. Hello world. Line 2. Line 3. It hits line 4 and it breaks. Because pint is, of course, obviously not defined. This is an interpreted language. There is two types of languages. There's compiled languages and interpreted languages. Compiled languages require you to have the entire program free of errors before it'll create the executable, which you can run. Executable is an application, a program you can run. So you have to have everything cleaned up. Now, interpreted goes line by line, which means since I had this code correct, it went ahead and ran it. Then it had this code correct, went ahead and ran it. Had this code correct, went and ran it. Hit this line of code and blew up because obviously I forgot the R. Yeah, this is the difference between the interpreted language, which it processes it a line at a time, versus the compiled, which everything has to be perfect in the entire program. You might say, well, why wouldn't you want everything perfect in the entire program? Interpreters are nice because you're not creating an executable per se that you can run on a particular machine. You just got text, which means I could copy this Python program to a Windows machine, to a MacBook, to a Linux, to any platform, and it'll have the Python interpreter on there, and then it'll run this. So it makes it a lot more flexible in terms of putting it on different types of systems. I installed a couple days ago Xcode and didn't have any trouble. I did have to upgrade my operating system on the MacBook to Big Sur, I think is the newest one, and then I could do Xcode, the latest version. Now, I would have been in trouble if it told me I needed Big Sur, S-U-R. I think it has something to do with surf. I don't know. I never did look at it. But I'd have been in trouble if it told me I needed Big Sur and my machine wouldn't handle it. And that's what I had at first. They told me they wanted me to teach these app development classes and so forth, using the Mac. And I said, okay. And I went off and I, of course, thought, well, I better buy a Mac. So I started learning. So I ordered a Mac off the internet, got it in, went to the App Store to download Xcode, and it said, hey, your machine's not powerful enough. And I thought, that's great. There's $200. I went cheap. There's $200 down the drain. I forget what it didn't have exactly. My brother then gave me one of his little Mac Minis and said, here, try this. I don't know. It didn't have the proper hardware. I couldn't put because it needed the newest version of the Mac operating system. So then I don't know. There was another one I got. And finally, I bought another cheap one. Probably if I went and bought a new one to begin with, I wouldn't have had all that headache. Um, but I finally got one that installed on. 2 years from now, it probably won't install on there because the newest version of Xcode will require a certain operating system that requires a certain level of hardware. Pain in the butt. Um, this is much easier where it's interpreted like this. Then you just have to install the interpreter on there, and this is just text. This is also what people like for programming behind the scenes. So if you got a web page that's running a program, Python is one of the popular ones. There's other ones too, PHP, Perl, and the reason why is because you can see the code. When I was doing some, I was getting my internet through a place called Southwind in Wichita. They provided internet hosting, and just to play, I created a C program and I had it run from one of my web pages. I passed in parameters from the web page and it ran a C program. And you can do that, or used to be able to do it. This was about 20 years ago, 25 years ago. But they contacted me that night and they said, you need to remove this or we're going to suspend your account. Because it was an executable, so they couldn't see what it was doing. Python, they can bring up your Python program and they can see exactly what you're doing. So anyway, it is important to understand the difference between a interpreted language and compiled language. Okay, so now I fix my error, and we'll see what happens now. Now you see I was able to print this, which is called a string. I was able to print 5, which didn't put quotes around. 5 is an integer. An integer is a number with no decimals. This would be referred to as a double or float, depending upon your language. That means a number with decimals. And so you can print that just fine. We put a comma there. See how to print both of them. So you can separate your input that your print's doing by a comma. Now, if you got text, you can put a plus between them like this. From David. Hello world from David. You can also hello world, comma, from David. So there's a couple of different ways of doing it there. Now, you're going to see me make a lot of mistakes. I mean, I did this one on purpose, the pint, but you're going to see me make a lot of mistakes during the semester. That's normal. If this is your first programming class, first programming class is kind of a challenge. You make mistakes. And it seems frustrating. You're going to make mistakes all your entire life if you continue programming. I don't know of any programmer sits down there and writes the entire code and never has one error that they have to correct. That's part of the job of a programmer is figure out what you wrote wrong. If you hate that, then you're probably not in the right field. It's a little bit of a puzzle sometimes. You're sitting there, well, what in the world did I do wrong? I don't see anything different about this. And I'll have people email that to me, and I'm sitting there, how could they not see that? I thought that would break it, to be honest. How can I break it? How about a dash? Get this, you get this syntax error. Maybe the line isn't pointing right, or even if it is, you're sitting there trying to figure out what's wrong with this. I don't see anything wrong with it. That's the puzzle. Okay, let's look at our second code example. This is going to show us how to add two numbers together. Now I've got string underscore num1 equals input. So let me highlight all this. String num1 equals to input first number. My son was born on June 29th. I think my wife's birthday is June 16th. Either that or 9th. I don't remember when I was married. It was in September. Those little pieces of information I do remember are stored in my brain. Don't know how when I want to retrieve my son's birthday, I'm not sure how it knows where to go in my brain to get it. I'm not very good at life sciences, but it's a wonderful design. Variables is one method for a computer program to store off information so it can remember it. So what's going to happen here is we're going to store the information in this str_num1. Now you can call this whatever you want. You cannot have spaces. So you cannot do like that. If you want it to look like there'd be a space there, you can put an underscore, just like I did. You cannot start it with a number. Like you can't put a 4 there. Now, I'm telling you just generally what not to do. Some of these you may be able to do in some languages. See if I put a 2 there. Comes down here, works just fine. You just cannot start with a number. You cannot have weird symbols, like exclamation, for the most part. Watch it work. Syntax error. So keep it basic. You can have uppercase, lowercase. It doesn't care about that. You can call this whatever you want. I call it str for string and then num1. Now this input basically gets input from the user. Pretty simple. And it'll print this as a prompt. Notice it has beginning parentheses, closing parentheses, and brackets around them. Then str num2 is equal to input second number. Different variable name, but this is how the computer keeps track of it. Again, the input's going to ask for input from the user. So when this runs, the prompt will be down here, and if you start typing at this point, look where my number is. It's in my program. This is what you do have to remember if you're using Spider, is you have to click down here before you start typing your input. So put 3 in there, press enter. That is now stored in a variable called string num1. If I put 4 in here and press enter, that's now stored in string num2. And I believe you can even write, like if I do a print string num1 down here, I think you can see it. See, and then print string num2. There are 4. So these do kind of work together. It's better to use the script like this, though. And the reason why is you don't have to keep retyping things. It's a pain to use the console in that form. Now these are coming in. The input puts it into string format. If I try to add those together, it's not going to look right. So I need to convert them. So I'm going to have a new variable. I'll just call it num1. You can call it whatever you want. David's number. You call it that. There is a int string num1. I got that over. I'm going to upload this. So you have it in one place. This converts it to an integer. So it'll take this, which is a string, convert it to an integer, and then assign it to num1. So we got another variable. Num2 is equal to integer string num2. Now I can add them. And what do I call it? Sum, total? Total. Total is equal to num1 plus num2. Like that. Now this is not the equals that you're used to in algebra. That is not the equals. That's the assignment. So what this does is it comes down here And in case you're wondering, where's this stored at, num1, num2, it's obviously a variable, like I said. It's coming from your RAM. Those little memory sticks, maybe you've put into your computer to give yourself some more memory. That's temporarily stored in RAM. So it's not stored permanently. When you shut your computer off, it's no longer has 3 and 4 in there. So this is putting in the RAM. All 4 of these put these values in 4 different locations in RAM. When this line 12 runs, it goes and says to the program, it says, the Python interpreter, it says to the program, hey, where's num1 at? Num1 says, hey, it's in this part of RAM. Says, okay, well, I need it. So it goes and retrieves it from that part of the RAM, a random access memory, and puts it right there, like puts 3 there. Then it hits this, and then it goes to the Python interpreter and says, hey, where's num2 at? And then num2 says, hey, here it's in this part of RAM. So it goes and retrieves that value and puts 4 there. Then adds them together. 3 plus 4 is 7, and then assigns it to total. And this creates a new variable. And then if I do a print, and run, and click down here, 3, 4, 7. I think there is a way to make this bigger. I've made that bigger in past classes. I'll have to look into that. I know it'd be up here like in the settings. I think there's a couple of places for settings in this. Tools preferences. I would have guessed here, but I would have guessed wrong. Oh, I'll try to figure that out. Okay, so that's our program. Now, what I'm going to do is hello world. I'll have you do these exercises out of the book, and also math operations. Expand on a project done during class by adding in the difference, product, and quotient. Well, how's that going to change? You'll have 3 more lines here. I got the sum. You're going to do a subtract. You're going to do a multiply. And you're going to do a divide. So you have 3 more variables. Instead of total, you have like difference, product, quotient, whatever you want to call them. And then you'll have 3 more print statements where you print out those values. When I was coming up with this code example, I put sum like this. Now notice the color of sum. It's purple. Purple means a reserved word in Anaconda. If you're using a basic editor, then you may not get that. I knew then I couldn't use sum. That once bit me one time. I used sum and it didn't give me an error. It just didn't work. And it took me forever to figure out that problem. I got to the point in my program, so the longest time I would put the in front of everything, just so I wouldn't be, because there's no reserved word that starts with the. If you don't have these available right here, then it'll concatenate them together. For example, let me show you what I'll come up with a new total. New total is equal to string num1 plus string num2. I'll print new total there. I'll be bringing in 3 and I'll be bringing in 4. And this looks like adds them together. So come down here. 3, 4. Notice it gives me 7 and gives me 34. Since it considers these as strings, when you got a plus between them, it does the concatenate. Concatenate just puts 2 strings next to each other. This is why you have to do this casting right here. Okay. If you're going to be using this, you can come over here. You can type code in here. So print next line. Other people have asked me. Now, notice these have semicolons. Doesn't hurt anything. If I put this in there, okay. Notice the pound up there. That's a document where you got documentation comment, and that's just for one line. That's how you do it with the pound. Now, if I run this, I didn't expect that. In the file when reading online. And it could be because I don't have a standard in, but I expected it to be different. Here's standard in, and if I'm going to bring in two lines, then I'll put 3 and 4 here. There it worked. Normally, after we do the input, we press enter. I wonder if I did a print, if that would work. Let's see. Print. Okay, that looks a little bit better. You still don't see the 3 and 4 because that comes from the standard in. So it's not like Anaconda where you click over there and put your own input. You have to put it right here. If I have another, input here, then I would need to come over here and put a third line. Now, if you're turning this in via, if you got a Chromebook and you turn it in this way, I can create a video on it. So if you struggle, if you got a Chromebook, not sure how to exactly submit your work, let me know. And I bought a Chromebook just so I could support my students. Or if you got a MacBook and it's working a little bit different MacBook and you want a video, just let me know. But you can edit, copy this, and paste it into the window over in Blackboard when you go to submit it. You could also save it to a document and upload the document from the Chromebook. Again, if you need any documentation on that, do not hesitate. I don't got a Chromebook here, so I can't show you. Okay, now I want to talk about, in the remaining time, a little bit about the field. This is your first programming class. Here's a site you should go out to, dice.com. This is probably the largest site dealing with IT jobs. And if I type Python here and press enter, this will tell me there's 8,384 jobs across the United States looking for people that work with Python in some manner. Now, these aren't all where you got a beginning job coming out of college. Some of these you see as senior data engineer, but it shows you what people are looking for. Now, if I get rid of that and just press enter, 56,992 jobs. It's important when you decide to go into a major that there's jobs there. I studied forestry coming out of high school, and realized how low wages it was for seasonal work, for hard work. And so I went into computer science because I wanted to go someplace where there was jobs, where there was money. I don't care what anybody says, money does buy you happiness, or can. If people don't say, well, no, it doesn't buy you happiness, well, they haven't ever been poor. I took a $21,000 pay cut when I went into education. I do nothing aside now. I'm not the same place, but I took that pay cut. That first year, I could not afford a dollar cheeseburger from McDonald's, and I was not very happy. Being able to pay your utilities, buy your gas for your car, buy a dollar cheeseburger from McDonald's, that does bring a certain level of happiness. Now, granted, there's religious items, family that bring true happiness, but money does buy happiness. Now, this is how many jobs are out there total. If you click the last 7 days, 45,245 jobs posted in the last seven days. That's a lot. It's about 6,000 jobs a day that are being posted. Now, that doesn't mean they're brand new jobs. You know, there are people leave and so forth, and they're filling them. And then some people probably repost so they appear maybe higher up in the searches. But this still tells you there's just a lot of jobs available. We offer, I think, an archaeology degree here at Cali, and I looked one time, and I think across the entire United States, I think there's 12 jobs. Good luck with your job hunt. So again, very important on this. Now this you can use. Let me get rid of the last 7 days. This you can use to see what should you be keeping up on. You know, Python is about 8,000. If I put in Java, 11,000. Okay, let's put in basic. I'm not sure if I need to put Visual Basic. 151 jobs. If I'm going to go to a college where their focus is on Visual Basic, I got to recognize there. I may get a job, but no, there's not a whole lot there. Used to be a college in Kansas that focused on COBOL, and you see, there's 272 jobs. I'd hate to go through a program, get a bachelor's, pay for all that money just to find I don't have any job prospects. So I go out here and research myself. Ruby is fairly new. Well, it's fairly new in terms of popularity. Couldn't tell you when it was actually created, but it's increasing. We teach assembly language here. Eight jobs. Boy, you gotta, if you focus on assembly language, you're gonna have some real good job prospects. You'll be waiting tables. Not that there's anything wrong with that. Every job is good, but not if you just got your degree to work with computers. Why do we offer assembly languages if there's so few jobs? Well, Wichita State said they needed for their degree. So it was going to be offered this semester, but it got canceled because nobody signed up for it, which I was happy about. I don't like it. It's hard. Let's see, SQL, 12,916. Most of anything we've seen, they want you to know SQL. 75, 80% of what I did as working as a computer programmer was based on databases. And SQL is the language used to talk databases. So at some point in time, whether it's Cali or whether it's at a four-year college or whether it's just on W3 schools, you need to learn SQL because it's just be so beneficial. Not to mention if you go into a job interview and they say, "Well, do you know SQL?" and you'd say, "Well, what is that?" That's going to be very impressive. So again, use this to figure out where you should head. It used to be you could do a generic search here, and then you could come over here and look at the skills. They got rid of that, unfortunately. I liked it because then you could sort it and you could see which ones are in high demand. So there's React, I think. I hear a lot about that. I don't even know what React is. But you don't need to know everything under the sun about computers. Well, that's what I wanted to cover. The assignments are out here. I always put the assignments out after the class meeting because usually assignments refer to something we covered in the class meeting. If you're in the fully online, you're not required to be here, nor the synchronous, because I record in YouTube video format. But you are required to watch the YouTube video because otherwise you're not going to understand some of my instructions. So make sure you watch the YouTube video each week before you start in work. Is there questions on anything? If you're muted, you just press your space bar and that allows you to talk, assuming there's anybody on. Yeah, there's one person. Well, we'll go ahead and stop there then. Have a good rest of the week and good weekend, and I'll see you online next week. And if you have any questions, you have any troubles, be sure to email me and contact me. And I'll be putting some Zoom online office hours out there probably tomorrow, so you can see the links and when you can come on and get extra help connecting via Zoom.